Hello, welcome back to the channel. So Keir Starmer has decided to extinguish the flames of dissent that are rising from the women in his party by adding petrol, that well-known fire extinguishing technique. He said in an interview that trans women are women, and he called for a more respectful debate on transgender issues. Now, this is why women hate this instruction that we should be kind, because what they actually mean is be silent. And we are not going to be silent as you sign away our rights. We do not agree that trans women are women. We think that trans-identifying men remain male, even if they truly and genuinely have an internal sense that they would prefer to have been born female. They were not born female, they were born male. And our rights are based on sex, our sex class that we are born into. Our sex is immutable. It doesn't change. Doesn't matter which medical treatments, which surgery, which cosmetic procedures we do. It is fixed at the moment of conception. So Keir Starmer's calling for greater respect in the form of reform of gender recognition laws. Now, the government, the Conservative government, held two different consultations around reform to the Gender Recognition Act because the people in charge of the Women and Equalities Select Committee were heavily lobbied by the LGBT lobby that this law, which was made in 2004, needed to be updated because things are so different now. And they did two consultations, and they realised through the process of both of those consultations that this was a minefield and that they were not prepared to enter it. There was no reason to enter it. There is no going through the process of a gender recognition certificate is not onerous. It is not too expensive. They've reduced the cost to like £10 or something, and you pay it once and that's it. That's it. You're done for life. It's not onerous. Try applying for any benefits. Try applying for disability benefits. Honestly, it's about a 34-page form. It's ridiculous. Try getting any help for children that need help from social care services because of special needs or anything else. So huge amounts of assessments that we all have to go through. Having to get a utility bill in your changed name and a diagnosis of gender dysphoria from your doctor is not an onerous requirement to give you all of this legal recognition as something you're not. And feminists are not going to stop now until we repeal the Gender Recognition Act. Because we don't believe there are any cases in which it's reasonable to award a gender recognition certificate and rewrite history and change a birth certificate that says that you bore a boy in your body. You gave birth to him in pain. 30 years later, he wants to change the facts and say that he was born female. It's not a reasonable expectation of society, and it's not helpful to the people that are struggling with this. So Starmer here gets the law completely wrong. He says a woman is a female adult, and in addition to that, trans women are women, and that is not just my view, that is actually the law. It has been the law through the combined efforts of the 2004 Gender Recognition Act and the 2010 Equality Act. So that's my view. It also happens to be the law in the United Kingdom. It's not true. It can't be true that women are adult human females and trans women are women, because trans women are not adult human females. They're adult human males. They're not women. You cannot protect single-sex spaces if you're going to let a subset of the opposite sex in because they have a feeling that they should be there. So, I mean, Sarah Ditum did an excellent column today in the Times titled, "What is a Woman? Don't Try Asking Labour." And, you know, that's exactly how I feel. I've already uploaded my first video about Sir Bernard Jenkin in the debate in the House of Commons on International Women's Day. There is another, the end of his, the point of order that he raised at the end of the debate, that's still to come. And there are other videos about other contributions. But, you know, Anneliese Dodds, Yvette Cooper, Keir Starmer, these are people at the very top of the Labour Party. They cannot win without women. We are a major, major voting bloc. And what you've said has just pissed off almost all women. The women that you're appealing to by this stance are women who are very young, who've been indoctrinated through schools and universities and colleges and haven't actually come up against the hard facts of maternity discrimination and sexism and the gender pay gap, which I would call the sex pay gap. At that point, those women seem to think that there's no real difference between men and women because they haven't experienced the chronic oppression that women recognise as they age. So Keir Starmer calling for legal reform, again in the Times today. It's just absolutely crackers. I mean, that's one way to get around the gender tourism, isn't it? The fact that the Scots are updating their gender reform, gender recognition services. Just make it so it's self-ID all over the country. But women are not going to stand for this. We won't accept it. We won't be quiet. And I think you can see that. I mean, even J.K. Rowling, who has, I have celebrated the fact that she has run out of fucks completely. She says, "Now Keir Starmer publicly misrepresents equalities law in yet another indication that the Labour Party can no longer be counted on to defend women's rights. But I repeat, women are organising across party lines and their resolve and anger are growing." She's completely right. Women are furious. I don't think these men in power have got any idea. I really don't. So the reaction in my circles on social media is pretty definitive that you are not carrying the mumsnet masses with you. And luckily, we have a blog from Naomi Cunningham, legal feminist. I've referred to her blog previous videos because it is excellent. She analyses the question, does the law actually say that trans women are women? She says, the short answer is no. The law doesn't define the terms trans woman or trans woman at all. The Gender Recognition Act 2004 does change some people's legal sex. Obviously, the law can't change anyone's biological sex. The fact that the law can't mess with material reality is the point Canute was making when he forbade the tide to come in. But Section 9 of the Gender Recognition Act 2004 has the effect that some trans women, i.e. the very small number who hold a GRC, only a few thousand to date, are deemed for most legal purposes to be women, although exceptions apply. The Equality Act 2010 forbids discrimination in various different contexts on the grounds of gender reassignment. That means that in those contexts where the Act has effect, employment, provision of public services, education, etc., it's mostly unlawful to treat a person less favourably than you'd treat other people because they are proposing to undergo are undergoing or have undergone a process or part of a process for the purpose of reassigning the person's sex by changing physiological or other attributes of sex. If a person is somewhere on that path, it doesn't matter whether they've got a GRC or not. They're entitled anyway not to suffer discrimination on grounds of gender reassignment. There are necessary exceptions, but in general, it's obviously right that there should be a legal prohibition against discrimination on this ground. But it's important to note that that doesn't mean that trans women are entitled to be treated for all purposes as if they were biological women. If a trans woman who doesn't have a GRC wants to access a female-only space and is refused access, that's not discrimination on the grounds of gender reassignment, but discrimination on grounds of sex. She's refused access. You see, the pronouns are confusing. I'm going to correct. I'm going to read out as it's written, but when she says she, Naomi is referring to a male person with a trans identification. She's refused access not because she's trans, but because she's both legally and biologically male. That means that she can lawfully be refused access any time it's lawful at all to have a female-only space. In my view, it also means she almost certainly should be refused access in those circumstances. That's because it's only lawful at all to provide a single-sex space or service if there's a good reason for sex segregation. But if trans women are admitted, it will cease to be a single-sex space. If a trans woman who does have a GRC wants to access a female-only space or service, it's still likely to be lawful to refuse because of the exceptions that apply to prohibitions on discrimination on grounds of gender reassignment. In short, the Equality Act does recognise that although sex is usually a bad and arbitrary reason for treating people differently, there are contexts in which biological sex matters. Thank you, Ms. Cunningham, for creating such accessible blogs because, you know, legalese is famously indecipherable to those of us that were not educated into the trade. So I'm really, really grateful for your expertise being shared so generously with women. It just makes me so cross. And I don't think Keir Starmer, Yvette Cooper, Anneliese Dodds or the rest of the Labour Party realise that Labour is losing women. Check out the hashtag Labour losing women. You will see so much evidence. We have struggled to stay influencing the Labour Party for so long. Women, you know, of the left have really, really tried. It is no longer, in my opinion, it is no longer, and I cannot believe I'm saying, look, Keir Starmer is up against Boris Johnson. How bad do you have to be to make voting Conservative look like a rational alternative? I mean, I can't vote for Boris Johnson, obviously. But, you know, I can't vote for Labour. And I won't vote for the Liberal Democrats or the Greens. You know, women are pretty politically homeless because all we want is a reality-based political party which accepts that there are sex classes just as there are socioeconomic classes. These classes are in conflict, and politics is the civilised way to resolve these conflicts. If we're no longer given a place in the political process, what means will we be pushed to in order to get our voices heard in the public sphere? I mean, you've already got armies of grands and mummies stickering places. You know, minor criminal damage. I mean, that's what they call it when they arrest people like Jenny Swain. These are women who would never have considered breaking the law, ever, in their life. For the benefit of a bunch of children, with children's demands, that we bend reality to make it suit them better. It's not reasonable, it's not rational, and we won't stand for it. We are the big bad mummies that say no. We've got really good at it because we practice on our children all the time. What these young boys need, and these adult male transvestic fetishists need, are firm boundaries. And women and children need safeguarding, which means we need spaces away from these men. I mean, I would actually say that more than some other men, these are men we need to be given space away from. There are a lot of decent blokes out there, but there's a minority who are dangerous to women. There's a minority that are dangerous to children. And I consider that to be an overlap with those males that have a trans identification, because it is in essence a boundary violation. You are invading the boundary that says this is what woman is. This is the boundary of woman. And you're on that side. You're on the side of man. And you're already crossing that boundary. You're already invading space that is not yours. These are not characters that you want to be locked in a cell with. They're not characters you want down the hall at a refuge. You don't want to be changing next to them at the swimming pool. You don't want your children to be going to a public toilet where they're going. It's madness. I hope you enjoyed the slightly angry tone of today's video. This is an appeal to women who are nominally of the left or might consider voting for left-wing parties like the Labour Party. If you still have the energy to spend on influencing these parties to take the concerns of women seriously, then I wish you all the best in the world. And I would never judge a woman for the very difficult calculation that each woman must make between her class interests in terms of her socioeconomic status and her class interests as a woman. Wouldn't it be nice if those things coincided so that we could make decisions that were right for us as women, as in my case, as a disabled person and a person in a fairly precarious financial situation. If you are like me and you feel politically homeless, there is a home for us, and it's in feminism. And it's through feminism that you will meet other women that also feel politically homeless. We come from all points along the political spectrum, and we're organising across the political spectrum. There are women that are voting in all sorts of different directions, and you have the right to vote however you wish. But there are lots of other things we can do to influence the political process. Please get involved with writing letters. Write to your MP. If your MP is a brick wall, write to somebody else. Write to some of the people that I look at in these videos. Make a judgment about their characters and think about whether or not that's somebody that you might be able to sit down and have a conversation with. If you have an opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with people, that's great. If you feel a little bit braver than you did last year, then that's great. Wear some of Kelly J. Keen's fantastic merchandise or some from Wild Women workshops so that other women know that you're a safe person to talk to. Carry a tote bag by Lily Maynard. There are lots and lots of things you can do to help find your tribe. We are out there. Come and join us. So thanks for watching today's video. It's been great to hang out with you. Thanks for listening to me rant on about Labour losing women. It's something that I've been cross and upset about for literally years. So thanks for hanging out. I now have a Substack where I post a kind of more essay form of the things that I rant about on these videos. If you'd like to sign up for that, you'd be very welcome to follow that. It is clairefeminist.substack.com. Please leave me a like and subscribe to the channel if you get a moment to. I really appreciate the support from those that have subscribed. Thank you very much. If you want to support me practically, that would be great. There is a PayPal link in the description box, and I'm very, very grateful for your support and appreciate it hugely. So thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you take care of yourself, and I'll see you again very soon.